We've got the marketing, the advertising person, the people that run my Facebook ads, people that run my YouTube ads, people that make my copywriting, all that stuff that is right there in one area, one division.
Welcome to the Networking with Michelle podcast, the show dedicated on providing you the how-tos of marketing and networking strategies. Here we believe in the Jim Rohn quote, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Hey, good people, we're back with another episode of Networking with Michelle. Today's special guest is Ryan Stewman, aka the Hardcore Closer. Ryan, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, Michelle. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So we're coming right out the gate.
Uh-oh.
What is money and why is so important?
Well, what is money? Boy, that's an interesting question. So, money is obviously these paper and things that we exchange for value. But I believe that money really is truly a reflection of the value that you donate to the marketplace. And sales is important because without sales, the world will be full of a bunch of cool stuff that nobody knew it even existed, right? Because like you think about guys like Bill Gates, like the nerds of the world that invented some really, really cool stuff. They had to go out and hire a sales team to push it into the marketplace. That's what happens with everybody who comes up with a great invention. If you've seen the movie The Founder about Ray Kroc with McDonald's, that's what he was. He wasn't a big corporate guy. Wasn't the smartest dude in the room. But the reason why McDonald's is the empire it is today is because when he was alive, he was a strong salesperson. And without him, nobody would have ever known how good those burgers used to be, because they're not good anymore, but how good those burgers used to be, right?
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. So how did you come across sales? What's your origin story?
Well, at age of 8, I've always been like a troublemaker kid. I come from like a broken home and whatever, right? But at the age of 8, my stepdad had enough of me to where he started taking me to work. He worked at a car wash, and he started taking me to work, and I would mow the yards, and sometimes I would vacuum cars, and eventually by the time I was about 10, I was wiping off cars. But he promised me that when I was 13, he would let me sell car washes, because I noticed that the person who sold car washes, they call him the ticket writer, the person who wrote tickets didn't have to vacuum or wipe off cars or mow lawns for that matter. And I thought, okay, well, that's the good gig right there. That's what I want to do is sales, obviously, because even the manager had to wipe off cars, but the ticket writer didn't. And so by the time I was 13, I finally talked him into letting me write tickets, and I continued to do so after school and everything else. And some days at that car wash, we would wash 1,000 cars. So I get the 1,000 face-to-face turns on people, and my job was if they came in wanting a $7 wash, it was my job to bump them to a $10 wash. So when you do that for almost 10 years and you have anywhere from 100 to 1,000 people coming in every single day of the week, and I'm working 6 days of the week out of every week of the year, I got a lot of sales experience in a short amount of time. And not in a short amount of time, but over time. And when I was working there, one of the ladies that was like a regular customer that washed her car, she took note of my work ethic and my sales ability and offered me a job in mortgages. And at the time, that was the best gig that I could have ever asked for, considering I was still sweating and dealing with car wash stuff. And so I left the car wash and went to work for this lady selling mortgages, and I made like $6,700 my first month there. And comparing that to the car wash, which would have taken me 4 or 5 months to make that kind of money, at least 3 or 4 months. And so it was life-changing money. The next month, I went on to make like $7,000 more, and it really was life-changing money for me. And I went on to become the top producer in the company. But it was all the experience I got from selling car washes that made me an effective salesperson at mortgages. And so I went on to do mortgages for another 8 years, all the way up until 2010, which is when I started the lead generation and sales training stuff that you see that we do today.
Gotcha. At that time, did you realize you were learning transferable skills?
Yeah, I for a period of time, I got mad at my stepdad and I quit the car wash and I was wiring houses, like being an electrician's helper. And I would notice, like, dude, that is a hot job, Michelle. Like it's, you live in Houston, right? Could you imagine being in your attic right now, the attic of your house? Like I had to do that, right? And they only paid me like $12 an hour, which is ridiculous. And I'm just climbing through these attics, sweating to death. It's slippery everywhere, it's wet everywhere, insulation sticky, and I'm thinking to myself, I hate this, right? I just hate my life. What have I become? But I would see the guys that sold these houses because we were building, nice construction homes, and we were putting the wires inside these homes, and we would see the sales guys show up in Mercedes and Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and their clients are showing up in Rolls Royce, and they're all like telling us what to do. Like, hey, you young dude with the wires, get over here and pull that. Quit sweating all over the place. And I'm like, man, like I am on the wrong end of this deal, right? I'm over here pulling wire, and these guys are rolling around in Rolls Royces. Like, I got to get back in sales. And so the only place I knew to get into sales is because it, was my experience. And so I jumped right back into the car wash and started selling car washes again. And like I said, that's when ultimately somebody recruited me. But I've never had a paid vacation or been paid for a sick day. That stint that I was an electrician is the only time that I've ever been on any kind of salary like job or whatever. And it wasn't even salary. If I didn't show up, I didn't get paid. So I've never truly had a salary job in my entire life. And just that one summer when I was like 14 or 15 was the only time that I haven't been in a commission job. So, like it's just basically been my whole life. And ever since I was a little kid, people would always make the jokes like, he's going to be a good little salesman one day. It's like, no, you're wrong. I'm going to be the best in the world one day.
I know I've definitely struggled with this, because a lot of us are groomed. I'm 34, and a lot of us have been groomed to go to college and get a corporate gig. And it's kind of like you're on this stringent path of learning. And it's processed at step 1, 2, 3. And then, but we don't know how to transfer that skill, right? It's like, I know how to do systems and processes, but how am I going to go for a sales job where I have the potential to earn limited amounts of money, or even going into entrepreneurship? I mean, because that sells hardcore sales. And I think that's missing. So what are some tips when it comes to transferring those skills, our current skills, into either sales or even entrepreneurship, since we're going to be selling ourselves, our business, etc.?
Well, I do a little business with celebrities and stuff from time to time. And I was meeting with a world famous management company out in Nashville, Tennessee a few months ago. And I was asking them some questions, and we were talking about the deal that was laid out in front of us with these multi-platinum artists that we were working with. And they explained that the way somebody becomes a multi-platinum artist and gets a lot of airplay and makes a lot of money isn't whether or not they can sing. There's plenty of people in the streets of New York that can sing with a guitar that are homeless. Same for Nashville and Dallas and any other major metropolitan. We talked about Austin before. It's full of people that can sing on the streets there, right? And but that doesn't mean that they're star quality. It's not if they look good, because these days there's plastic surgery, hair extensions, butt extensions, fake boobs. They got all that stuff. Dudes, they'll put you on the steroid diet real quick. And so the thing that they look for is somebody who's willing to work and willing to do whatever it takes to become that top spot. And so, they're looking for someone who has the work ethic. Like, let's use Drake, for example. Drake, somebody who doesn't have a bunch of kids. He's not married, signing a bunch of alimony and divorce waivers and things like that. He works. He's on tour every single night of the year, or he's in the studio every single night of the year. He doesn't get any bad PR. He's not causing a lot of problems out there and getting arrested and getting shot at and going to prison, or people accusing him of doing things that maybe he did or didn't do. And he's the example of why he's number one and on top, is because they keep lifting him up, because he's working hard instead of being stupid like a lot of other artists and things do. And I think the same thing applies in sales. If you're a hard worker, even if you're not good at sales now, guess what? You practice playing that guitar good enough, you're going to get good at it. You practice freestyle rapping enough and writing enough, you're going to get good at it. You practice anything enough, you're going to get good at it. So if you're willing to work hard, then sales is you might have a little bit more of a learning curve, or it might take you a while to find your quote unquote knack for it. But if you're willing to work hard, sales is a numbers game. And if you can just get in front of more people and can practice more and more, it'll change the game for you. And there's really no reason to go to college if you're thinking about getting a sales job. I was sitting at there's a country club in my neighborhood, And I'm definitely the only dude covered in tattoos in this neighborhood. It's like old people, you know what I mean? But it's a diverse neighborhood, but it's like old rich people, you know. And so here I am. I'm in my mid 30s and covered in tattoos and got kids. They're like, I thought all the kids were out of this neighborhood. Who brought kids back in here? You know. So anyway, I'm sitting at the country club and I met a client of mine and fellas from India. And his parents are both Indian, and they moved here when he was about 4 or 5 years old. And his mother is a nurse, and his father is a doctor, which is, you know, traditional in their families. That's what you do over there. It's like you grow up, and it's like, you know, here our parents say, son, grow up, get a job, and get the hell out of my house, right? Over there, they say, son, grow up, you can stay at our home forever, and we want you to become a doctor. Right, like that's what they do. That's their culture. Here's the person you're going to marry, and then here's what you're going to do for a living. It's not really a choice. It's what they're told to do. And isn't that cool? Like, I mean, that obviously that culture is not for everybody. But like, if you could tell your kids, you're like, son, you're going to be a doctor. Like, no wonder there's so many doctors over there. Why wouldn't you want to tell them to be the best job? That's just like, it makes sense, right? You're just like, son, you're going to be rich, and you know, it's like, here, let me hand this to you. And so he's a real estate agent, though. And so he decided not to become a nurse or a doctor. And he went 2 semesters into school and decided that it wasn't for him. And, you know, it was a big deal in his family because they had basically, you know, even though you're here and you have your own free will, it's not like their home country. He still had violated what the destiny that they had picked for him. Right. And the thing was, though, he said, you know, I learned that I was really good at negotiating and selling people. And it's, again, that's something that's part of his culture. And he said, and I wanted to work in sales, and I knew that there was money in sales. And, you know, as a doctor or a nurse, I'm going to be limited to an income unless I own my own business anyway, which is not really my intention because there's so much overhead, which is why everybody works for the hospitals. I'm going to go into real estate. And he did. And the guy's making 6 figures, he's making more than most doctors make. And he's 24 years old, and he's making more than any nurses make. And he's making more than most doctors make, all because of his sales ability. And now he doesn't have $150,000 to $250,000 in, you know, college loan bills, which, you know, there's things that you get for being an immigrant and stuff like that help out with that. But it's still a massive amount of money that you got to pay to be able to go through school. And now he doesn't have any of that overhead. He just has a business that he's able to scale and make a tremendous amount of money from without all the overhead and worry, you know, if somebody's life's on the line. Doctor's kind of a risky job, right? You're like, hey, it's like, hey, you know what? You could leave the operating room 100% fine, but you could die too.
Malpractice insurance, I've heard, is up there. What I like about that story is the willing attitude, right? Just the willingness to try something. And obviously he's become successful in it. I know too many of us just have fear when it comes to deviating away from the path.
Yeah, I just wrote an article on my website, which is for those listening, hardcorecloser.com. And it's about people being afraid to convert to commission. Because, you know, when you step out of that comfort zone, there's no comfort in commission. It's literally, if it's meant to be, it's up to be. If it's meant to be, it's up to me, is the way that commission goes. And a lot of people aren't really certain of themselves, but here's what I'm certain of. It takes certainty to be able to close sales. So that's why it doesn't work out for everybody. You know, people get afraid to go commission only, and then despite their fear, they do it anyway, but then they're not certain that they should be there. And then the uncertainty, when you're having a conversation with somebody, like you can hear me talking right now, you're pretty sure that I'm certain about what I'm saying, right? You can tell the difference in the tone of my voice. And so, you know, if you're an uncertain person, you won't make it in sales. And if you start that out with uncertainty, it's hard to break that pattern. Because here's why people buy. Because most people, they struggle with making decisions, and they've been ripped off, and they made a series of idiotic decisions that's got them in more jams than they can count on both fingers and both hands and feet. And then here's what happens. Like, you're the person they're relying on to be the smart one about whatever it is that they need from you. And they need you to be confident so that they can just be confident in you, not necessarily what you have, right? Like, because most people are like, oh, I don't know, just tell me what to do, right? And if you don't seem confident, then there's no way you're going to be able. And that's got to be able to start with believing in yourself. If you're a hard worker and you know you've worked hard and you know you've done good everywhere that you've ever gone before, then it's time to make that transition. You know, in the mortgage business, I would see a lot of processors, which are the people that do all the paperwork. they would get really good at processing. They would realize that they knew how to do loans start to finish, and they go become loan officers and make 10 times the money. All because they got to a point where their confidence was up and they're like, dude, I know how to do this. I'm on it.
I think that's the thing. I think lots of times we get stuck in that confidence, right? It's like, I know this so well, I'm not even going to leave out of my comfort zone. So, I mean, that's what I've seen. I don't want us to spend too much time on the whole fear and diving into new territory, but I definitely believe that's the problem. It's like, I'm confident in this one area of my life, so I'm going to stick here and remain, the man or the woman in this industry, in this lane.
Yeah, comfort zones have prevented a lot of greatness for sure.
I like that quote. Like that. So, I like how you mentioned the movie Founder earlier. I've been meaning to see it and I haven't. But good product, bad marketing, can success happen or not?
Good product, bad marketing? No, probably not. So I'll give you an example. My buddy Haas Pratt is a big real estate coach or whatever, and he happens to live in the neighborhood across the street from me. And so we do CrossFit together a few times a week. And the other morning, it was last week, he says, hey man, you ever eat at that Diaz place down the street from you? And I said, nah, man, that place, it looks terrible. Like their marketing is like off blue color. Like, no, there's no way I'm going to eat there. And he goes, man, I thought the same thing too. But the owner, I met him a couple weeks ago, and he taught me into going over there, gave him a bunch of free coupons, and he's followed up with me twice. So I went over there and I ate, and he's like, I'll be damned, it's really good, man. I was like, no way. And he's like, no, seriously. And I'm like, dude, and I drove by it yesterday. I was like, man, Mom, he's my boy, and I know he's got good taste, but I don't know if I'm going to pull in there or not. So the reason why I share that story is that's a good example. That might be the best damn quesadilla I've ever ate in my life, right? And somebody I trust tremendously recommended it to me, and I'm skeptical. So there's, I think, your answer.
Gotcha. Okay. But because I like how you said, so how can the sales and the marketing team work together? Because I know in corporate, that tends to be a friction. And I tell people marketing, at least I tell my clients, marketing is about awareness. Right. But sales is about having, like you said, kind of having the salesman go out there, make the phone call and walking you through the process and closing you. But how can those two departments work together?
So here's a better way of putting it. So marketing gets their attention and sales gets their money. And that's like the way to look at it. But they do have to work together, because if they don't know who you are, you're not going to be able to close them. See, in my world, I own 6 different corporations. And in all of my corporations, we do inbound leads, meaning we generate our own leads we send advertisements out. We do paid advertising with a call to action for them to give us direct response, and then we contact them via text, email, or however depending on what the offer is how we contact them, right? And so everything goes through funnels and all that stuff. And so here's what I do know. It's like when you have sales and marketing combined together, which a lot of people do, and I believe that that's wrong because the signal gets mixed. So here's how it's set up in my company, in all my companies, and I believe that words matter, right? Like if you use I'm a copywriter, I write blogs and do a lot of videos and sales letters and all the emails we send out. I write all that stuff myself, and I write for Forbes, Huffington Post. I got 5 books. Like writing's I think it's safe to say it's kind of my thing, and I've done a lot of it, a lot more than most people. And because of that, words matter to me a lot. And, just rewording some things can make the difference in, millions of dollars, right? Because we've tweaked some funnels that have turned around and made us 7 figures because of the way that we reworded stuff, or we put a different sales letter with different words. So I want you to think that words matter. Here's how my corporation, my corporate structure works for my company. So we have a growth team, an acquisition team, and a success team. We don't have a sales and marketing department. Okay, so what the acquisition team is in charge of is generating leads. Those are the guys that run ads, they run funnels, they go out, they do the marketing, they send out the mailers, we send the blast emails, all the things that we do to get their attention and their information. That's their job, right? They're to acquire leads. They're the acquisition leads. Now, that includes my designers, right? Because they're going to put the designs and photos and all the things that we do in the ads and on the websites and in the funnels and all that. So the design team is a part of that acquisition team. So they're working together. We've got the marketing, the advertising person, the people that run my Facebook ads, people that run my YouTube ads, people that make my copywriting, all that stuff that is right there in one area, one division, and their job is to create perfection so that we can acquire leads at the lowest cost per lead. That's their only job. They ain't got to worry about sales. That's not their problem. As long as they're getting people through the funnel, they're getting paid. That's it. Then on the other side, I have my what I call the money team, which is our sales team. And so the money team is they're in charge of taking those leads and converting them into cash, right? Whether it's text messages, whether it's emails that they send, whether they get them on the phone, whether they get them to a seminar, whether they get them face to face in a parking lot, I don't care. But their job is to take those leads, and they have a certain amount of leads they get every week and a certain amount of sales they have to make every week based on the amount of leads that we get. This month alone, I've already spent $27,000 in Facebook ads and another $17,000 in YouTube ads. So you can imagine that we have, and I only have 3 salespeople. So you can imagine that we have strict regimens that they follow. But I have a Navy SEAL sales team. They're amazing people, but that's their only job. They don't go out hunting for customers. They don't prospect. They are simply calling and following up with these leads. Now they don't stop. They're relentless, and you got to remember they've got systems in place that help them follow up with thousands of people per day, and they're absolutely relentless. And they're only going to get on the phone with people who stick their hand up and say, "I need to get on the phone before I give you this money." Most of the stuff happens with them through through Facebook and through text messages and through emails, and we sell to millionaires. That's our main gig is people who make $250,000 or more a year, and we do a lot of that through social media too, and they follow up until they either unsubscribe, they're told to stop following up, or they're blocked on Facebook or whatever. And I'm not talking about being, pushy or mean to them, but dude, they'll send people blog posts once a week. They'll say, "Hey, I saw this video of Ryan's and I was thinking it'll work well for what we talked about." They're taking extensive notes inside our CRM. So every time somebody calls them, details are popping up on their phone about what they talked about last and where they're at and what the objections were. Like, these folks are dialed in, and so it makes the follow-up a lot easier, especially for me. I've got 1,400 videos on YouTube. I've got 1,500 blog posts that I've written. I've been at this for a long time. Got 214 personal podcasts, and I've been interviewed another 150 times. And so I've got a lot of content that they can pass around to people to provide them cool stuff on the follow-up. A lot of salespeople don't follow up because they don't have the content or the gifts rather to offer them. And then the third part of my team is what we call the success team. And it's their job that once the salespeople take money from someone, to make sure that the sales team, their job is not to do anything else, but to go back to selling. And so the success team, if you have questions, if they have questions as far as how to build funnels, or they need to know what videos where, if they need their logins to a program, if there's tech support stuff that there's issue, if there's admin things like getting everybody their login, adding them to our Facebook group, making sure that you got the right bonus gifts, making sure they're on our mail list, all that stuff, and as well as organizing my stuff, making sure that they put all of the content that comes from the acquisition team in the right place so that we know how to access all of it. Their job is to just make sure that everybody around them is successful, from me, the CEO, all the way to the sales team, the marketing team, and of course the clients as well. And that's their 100%. That division's 100% dedicated to assisting and helping everybody that's involved in the equation become successful. And so those 3 things are how I break down my corporate structure, and that's how all of our companies work, and it works really smooth for us.
It sounds ideal. Yeah, that sounds ideal. How have you managed to get everyone on the same page when it comes to that, even in the different structures?
Yeah, so we have a saying, and it's stay in your own lane. And so nobody fights anymore because they're not saying, "Hey, this team's not doing that," because there's no gray area. I've set the expectations. Hey, this is what your job is. This is your only job. If you get asked to do something else, your phrase simply is, "Hey, stay in your own lane." Right? And for maybe the first couple of months, it was kind of funny. They would tell people to stay in their own lane and stuff like that. Now everybody knows what lane they're in.
And how important is having systems in place for people to stay in their own lane?
I like to say that I'm a well-organized person, and I know for a fact I'm a very well-disciplined person. And I still struggle without structure, right? Prior to, I kid you not, I'm not even gonna lie, Michelle. Prior to November, maybe it was September of 2015, I had no idea how much money I made every month. I would make a little checklist of, like, you know how you put like slashes one and then you put a slash in the middle and it makes five, right? Like one, two, so I would do that. That's how I tracked how many sales I made for the month. I would write down each of my products and I would just go through every time PayPal went off and I would just put another little check like a true salesman. And I had no idea. And so in 2015, in late 2015, I got a CRM. That's because I got more clients than I could continue to keep up with. So I got a CRM, start keeping information, everything in it. And I came up with a system for myself to organize myself on there. It changed the game. Obviously, in the last 2 years, our business has tremendously stepped up and really gone through the roof in revenues and the amount of people that we've helped and everything else. And so the reason why I share that is if I was, like, truthfully not as organized as I thought I was, if I was unorganized and the systems helped me step up to where now we're doing, we're close to $1 million a month in revenue in my companies, and all that's from being organized. So I believe even the most disciplined and organized person still needs something system-wise to keep them in check. If not, you just forget. Like, if I could answer every person that hit me up on Facebook or every email that I got sent or every phone call that answers, and I want to, but I can't. And then if you're not on the top of my mind, I forget because I'm a busy person, and so are your prospects, and so are you. And so you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I like what you said earlier. You said words matter, and you're everywhere. You have an app, you have a podcast, guest on podcasts, 5 books. I see ads run all the time. Just a simple article, really, on Facebook. How important has content marketing played within your company, within your personal and company brand?
Oh, it's huge. hardcorecloser.com is our lifeblood. Without that website, without that blog, which I've written, I think 700 and something, almost 800 posts at this point, and another 500 or 600 pages and videos that I put on there. But content marketing is huge for me. My app has 10,000 users on it, and I've never paid to run any traffic to it. It's all organic people that have opted in from Facebook and LinkedIn. We have 50-something thousand active blog subscribers that read our stuff, and we try to kick people off our list all the time because it costs us money for you to be on there and not use it. It's when you get to that level, things get expensive really quick. We have 250,000 people that watch us between Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. And so those people are there wanting something. And so me putting content in front of them is huge. It's we have a system that works like this. We put something like a blog post in front of them that'll say something to the tune of 7 ways you can compare Arnold Schwarzenegger lifting weights to your making sales, right? I just did one that was really similar to that. And we run an article to all the Arnold Schwarzenegger fans out there and everybody who likes him. And then so they automatically see a picture of him, which is, like celebrity recognition. They have a picture of him. And then what happens is from the picture of him, they see that there's a blog written about some cool stuff that they'd never heard about him before. They go there, they read it. And the last thing that I put on every one of those blog posts is, if you would like my personal help doing some of the things like Arnie over here, then, just go to breakfreeacademy.com/entourage, which is our mastermind program that we do. And underneath that, there's offers for a book and a strategy session, one or the other. You can have whichever one you want. And so we run those blog posts out there that gives them about 90% content, 10% call to action. But as you know, Michelle, my blog is pixeled, and like with Facebook and Google Pixel. So once you hit my blog, you start going through any of the Google Ad Network sites, or you go back on Facebook, you get retargeted with, here's how to get my paperback elevator to the top book for free. And that's really where our funnel starts. So we use the content as to get their attention. And then we have this little funnel that is a free paperback book that we ship them. But on the back end of the book, if you go to elevatortothetop.com, you can get the book and see how all this works. But on the back, they pay $7.95 shipping and handling for the book. Then we offer them $47 for this really cool, something we call social media mastery. And then if they take that, then we offer them our mastermind, which is $297 a month or $2,500 a year. And we just drive traffic after they've seen us on the front end. We just say, hey, you want a free book? Well, hey, would you like to spend some money? Hey, we want to spend a little bit more money, right? We just play the how high do you want to go game with them. And it's worked really well for me. But I need that content that shows my expertise and adds my value to the marketplace before I can legitimately ask them for money. At least that's how I feel, because that's how I would want somebody to treat me. It's like, I would want you to demonstrate some semblance of what you can do for me before you ask me for $1, you know?
I love it. I love it. And with video, obviously video is in high demand right now. Live stream, traditional video. You can even say webinars, because, you can do video on that. Can you just give us some tips on how to sell on video to make that transition from face to face or over the phone into video?
Yes. I sell. In the beginning of the year, we did a lot of webinars, and I don't like to flood the market with anything other than blog posts. And and the reason why I say that is I try to keep my webinars limited, so that when I do have one, the last one we did was like 8,000 people on it. So when I do have one, I want it to be, oh, he doesn't do these very often. It must be something serious. Now, for the other stuff, I'm always putting out videos, we do a weekly video, and I do a podcast, like you said, and blog posts and stuff like that. But the webinars to me are like the sacred things. But I sell via video all the time. You can see tons of examples at my Hardcore Closer Facebook page. But some of the tips that I would give you is, first, you have to make an unbelievable claim, right? Something that's true. You don't want to lie. It's how you get in trouble with the FTC, SEC, and everything else in between. But you want to make something that's unbelievable to call people out. You might want to, and it doesn't have to be. I mean, it's something that's going to make them think immediately. John Carlton gives a good example. It's like how a one-legged golfer can shoot 300 yards straight with a 7-iron every single time using this trick. Right, that's something you're like, well, the one-legged golfer, that just right there throws you off, and it's like, well, if the dude with one leg can do it, I probably can't too. What's this all about? And so you want to do something that's going to draw you in. On my latest video out there, I ask salespeople, it's like, hey, don't you hate it when someone tells you that they're going to buy, and then you go to buy from you, and then they never show up again? Doesn't that drive you crazy? Well, probably if that's happening to you, you've probably done it a few times to another salesperson too. And like the people that are doing that, they have that epiphany. It's like, oh, dude, really, I do buy how I sell. I never really thought of it that way. The ad that we're running on YouTube, it says, hey, I'm Ryan Stewman, 5-time best-selling author. I'm a contributor to Forbes, Huffington Post, and 2-time convicted felon who left prison in 2008 with $25 to my name. Here's the story of how I grew it to $5 million in 10 years. Like, who's going to skip that video? And so, it's got to be something that's bold and outrageous coming right out of the gate with your video. And then at the end of the video, you should always have at least one call to action, like, hey, click this link. Hey, check out this article. Hey, watch this other video. Hey, call my number. Send me an email. You always need to be having that, like, you need to call them to action to do something. So many people just make a video to hear themselves talk and see if people listen to them. You need it. You don't make sales that way. You make sales by asking for the business. If not, they wouldn't know that you sold anything. And so you want to make sure. And then the last thing, one more thing. The last thing you want to do is you also want to, especially on social media, if you're using video or webinars, like, hey, refer me a friend, share this. Pass it on to somebody send an email chain, spam this to somebody. Make sure you share my stuff somewhere. And those are the 2 call to actions I put on everything. Like, hey, become a client, and then also share this so that I can find other people like you that want to become a client.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I went to a conference last week. I had a strategy session this past weekend. So I have all this work I need to do, recreating my funnels and all this kind of stuff. And I was going to sit down and at least to write the script for my video series this past weekend. And I listened to your podcast. I believe it was episode 6. When you talk about how to close more sales with video. So I was like, man, this is right on time. Let's just say I threw my scripts away. And I'm going to be starting over this week, because I'm like, okay, and it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like what you said, though. It's like, am I talking just to hear myself talk? And I was like, I got to put some type of structure to this, because I need to sell them. It's like, it's going to be a part of my funnel. And this morning when I sent out my email, I already had it scheduled and everything. I went back and I was like, you know what? I need to put that refer a friend, because I have the call to action, but I need to go back, put the refer a friend to there because I need to give people something to do. And I like how you said it. You're either going to be a client or you need to pass this to someone that's willing to take action.
Exactly. And you know what? Some people are scared to run people off, but the truth is, you don't want to run people off. I mean, it's okay to run people off because if they run off from your sales pitch or whatever, they weren't going to buy from you anyway, and they're really irrelevant.
Yeah. And then the content, you just have to stay top of mind, whether it's the blog post, podcast, emails, which I've increased from weekly to daily because I'm like, you're just going to see me. You're going to see me. You're going to hear me.
Exactly. And so, that's what happens a lot when I train people at first. There's the people around them, the people that are closest to them, their close friends, their family. They say, why are you all of a sudden trying to sell stuff on social media? But like those folks, they're either going to buy from you or they're not anyway. What you're doing is you're giving the call to action on those videos to people who might take you up on the opportunity. Because if you don't give the call to action, no one's going to take you up on the opportunity,
That's true. So Ryan, as we wrap up, I know you mentioned it, but where can people find you at, your website, social media, etc.?
So you can go to hardcorecloser.com. That's where everything is at. Like all my social media is there. You can find all the icons and stuff like that. Everything that you need is right there at hardcorecloser.com. You can find anything that you need on me. So that'd be the best place. And while you're there, get yourself a book or sign up or whatever. Get my app, whatever thing that you like. It's probably there on that site for you.
All right. Well, I definitely want to appreciate you. Everyone, make sure you go to hardcorecloser.com. Definitely, it will be in the show notes. Remember, I believe in you, and a personal connection leads to an influential network. So thanks for networking with Michelle.